Hello everybody and welcome to One Player. Today on the table we have Star Trek Frontiers. This is the Star Trek themed reskin of Mage Knight, and as you can see, again, you're up pretty high. We've got the table full of space looking components, and this video is going to be a little bit different because I'm not going to do any gameplay in this video. All I'm going to cover is setup and components, because this game is complicated enough that I think it warrants its own explanation before any gameplay happens. So, and I think that'll probably take enough time to fill up a whole video. So if you're looking for gameplay, that'll be coming. I'm probably not going to do a full playthrough of the game because, again, it's quite complicated and quite long, but what I'll do is probably try to highlight some of the all of, hopefully, the mechanisms that you can run into. So you'll feel confident in going into your first game, knowing how to play and knowing what to do. What we're going to do here is set up for a strictly solo game. Usually that would include a dummy player having one other ship or other faction playing alongside you, taking turns and kind of getting in your way. What I would recommend, and what the rulebook suggests as well, is that if you want to get just used to the mechanisms without any of the kind of pressure of having to manage another ship, a whole other ship, is simply to play by yourself. Just take your preferred faction, fly around space, go and explore, and go and find what is causing the disruption in this sector of the galaxy. So that's what we're going to do. We're not going to play with a dummy player, and we're just gonna get used to the mechanisms. Gonna fly our own ship around, and that will be enough for us to start conquering some of the following scenarios in the full rulebook. With that said, I'm going to go over the components first that are removed from the game. So the components that we need to take out before we start laying out this absolute swath of cards and tokens you see before me. So first off, this is an easy one. This whole pile of yellow-backed cards, these elite crew members, are going to be taken out of the game. We don't need them for the solo game, or we don't need them for this scenario, I should say. So I'm sorry, Tom Hardy, I'm sorry, Miles O'Brien, but you are going back in the box. So that's the first one, and this is easy because they are yellow and the only yellow cards. The second is these undiscovered cards. These are in this little pile here, and are essentially like special abilities we can pick up. I'll talk about them in a little bit. But these four cards specifically reference other ships, so we can't use them in the solo game. The Inner Light, Energy Flow, Data Virus, and Telepathy are all going to be removed and put back in the box as well. We also don't need the reference cards for the Borg cubes, because we're not actually going to interact with any Borg cubes this game. We are going to find one, but we're not going to, shoot at it or anything like that. So we can get rid of these two. And the final pieces or components we're going to get rid of are these three space tokens. So these are the blue backs. We're going to get rid of 9, 10, and 11. We're only playing with one person, so we don't need these regions of space. We don't want to get too deep into it. So 9, 10, and 11, you see the numbers on the bottom here, they can go back in the box. Once we've removed those three blue cards, then we're left with 8 red space cards, and these are the kind of like final reaches for space where we're really pushing our luck, I guess. So we are going to find the 4 Borg cubes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the Borg sphere right here. We're going to pick one Borg cube. Let's just pick this yellow one. He seems friendly enough. And we're going to pick 2 of the non-Borg cubes, I guess. So we'll pick these 2. The rest of them, these 5, are going back in the box. And these are going to get shuffled and placed under the rest of the space cards, which should be in numerical order. So we've got 1, 2 already out. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we've got 8 of the blue cards already out on top of the red cards, and they're going to go over here in my little kind of storage area to my right. On the table already, you see we've got this black-backed space one, which is the wormhole we start every game with, and then space number 1 and space number 2. That's the official name, space number 1. We've also put our ship out it says to wait until your first turn, but we're the only ship, so we know we're going to be on the wormhole. So, you know, just for looks, there's the Enterprise. There are 4 main kind of sections to the table in this game, and I think I've got a pretty standard sized gaming table. So I'm about, this is about 5 feet by about 3 feet, I think. So hopefully this would be the kind of setup that I would recommend. It's played pretty well for me. And I'll go through them kind of one by one. So over here, we have kind of like experience tracks and the markets. We've got tokens up here, markets down around the board, and then our experience as a captain will track on this board. I'm going to come back to this in just a moment. Over here, right in the center, as we've already discussed, is the space map. Now we are going to head out into this direction. So imagine like this asteroid field expanding along the sides of this kind of hexagonal pyramid, if you will. The asteroids are going to expand, so we're never going to kind of reach out this way. We're always going to be facing like kind of northeast, I mean, that's not a direction in space, but you know what I mean. We're going this way. Down here, we've got kind of like our player space. So this gives us our captain's information, the skills that we can gain, our actual starting deck, which we have separated from the other cards. This is 16 cards of the Enterprise faction, of course, so they've all got the same ship symbol in the top right. This is 16 cards. We shuffle those and place them, well, right about here. We've also got 1 command token, which comes off the top of the command token pile here, provides us a space to place and recruit a crew member right below it. And as we increase our captain's level, we'll not only increase his stats here, but also be able to hire more crew members. So I'll put that there, and that's what that's for. Over here to the right is where we've got our data core and kind of like our storage for the rest of the bits and bobs. Also, this is where you're going to keep your bronze Picard statue, of course. We've got our ship here. So we've chosen the USS Enterprise D. I would strongly recommend doing that. And I think if you don't choose the Enterprise for your first mission, then you might be a sociopath. This is telling us how much it takes to move through space. So just kind of a reference here. These are our data dice. So we are going to pick 4 of these to start. We've got some wound tokens, Beverly Crusher being shot in the stomach, quite unfortunately. We've got some away team tokens over here. We've got our faction tokens, the pile of space tokens we already looked at, and then we've got some more spare data dice, just in case we need to roll dice. This is our tactics token, or our turn order token. We are not going to use this in this game because we're not playing against anybody else. But over it goes, because it's nice to keep all the components for one faction together. I think that makes the most sense. So store them in one little baggie in there, and then as soon as you want to play with that faction, pull that baggie out and you've got all the pieces. So you'd store this, these, this, and then your deck, your command, and your skills all together. So over to this experience section here. Up at the top, we've just got a kind of our storage for tokens. We've split these up into individual piles of differing tokens. So you see we've got our Romulan warbirds here. We've got some Dominion star bases. We've got a pile of planets, or sorry, 3 piles of planets. We've got Borg cubes and Borg spheres. Again, we won't run into those this mission, but just good to have. And this is how I would set it up were I playing a full mission. Up here, slightly off camera, but I'll bring them over here, we've got a deck of damage cards. Once again, easy to confuse because they've all got the same back. There's a large element of deck building in this, so of course lots of the cards come with the same back, so you don't know what you're going to draw next. So just bear that in mind. It's easy to get them confused, and I would try to keep them as separate as you can once you're storing this back in the box. But here's our damage tokens. These go into your hand and essentially make your hand less powerful because you can't do anything with them. So up there, damage. Hopefully you won't be taking too much of that. On the left here, now it says in the rulebook or in the initial scenario, don't get these out until you absolutely need them. You've got me. You've got me to guide you. So don't worry. We're going to pull these out. We're going to place them where they go because at least now you get kind of an idea of what the full setup is going to look like. And yeah, we don't need them for a while, but let's just keep them here. These are our advanced action cards. There are 3 of them pulled into kind of like a marketplace, if you will. Once you pull one, you can, once you get access to them, you can pull one, choose one, and then refill it from this deck up here. So all of the advanced action cards have this little plus symbol in the top right. So that's how you can differentiate them from the rest. Over to the right, we have our tactics cards. This is essentially the way that this game denotes turn order. So the lower number you pick, the quicker you're going to have your turn in the next round. I would recommend, again, because we're not playing against a dummy player, just picking a different one of these each round, just so you get the experience of having played all of them. They're kind of arbitrary otherwise, and obviously you don't need to pick number one because it just means you go first, which is always going to happen. But yeah, I would just play with each one once, just so you know what they do. Down here, and taking up the most space, is the experience track. So we've got one of our little faction tokens here, this tiny little blue Enterprise, sitting on the 0. You can see as soon as we start this track, down the left here, as soon as we start this track, we gain 1 command token, which we've already done by flipping this over from the top and putting it over here to gain, be able to gain a crew member. Every time we gain enough experience to put us down onto the next line, you'll see there's an alternating reward. So once we hit 3 or more experience, we get to pull not only 1 advanced action, so this card here, but also choose a skill. So we'd pull the top 2 skills and choose the one we want, place it next to our ship, and we can use this skill once per round. So we'll get to that later. Just know that that's there, and just know that this is why it's delineated like this, because every time you go down a row, you get a reward. We're starting on 0, that makes the most sense. Up here to the top right of this track is the reputation board. The reputation track. The reputation track again starts at 0, and this delineates how much diplomacy you have when you run into different planets, different star bases, etc. So the worse actions you partake in space, if you become a space git, I think is the technical term, start blowing up people and places and planets and whatnot, laying waste to Class M life forms, you are going to be viewed as quite the piece of work, and nobody's really going to want to trade work or be nice to you. The more you go into this nice green direction, the easier things get in general, if you want to be a nice guy. To the right, this deck is the deck of undiscovered cards. These are the mysteries, the deep mysteries of space, and are very powerful cards if you can get your hands on them. The way that you do get your hands on them is through primarily taking over Dominion starbases. So forget what I said about this, go ahead and do that, go ahead and lay waste to some star bases, and also successfully completing away missions. So you go down to planets, you successfully complete one of the challenges or defeat the people there or whatever, and you can choose one of these. Again, we've got a market of 3 of them, we choose one and then refill it from this deck here. These, again, same backs, but pretty easy to spot on the front. They've got a top and a bottom, the top being their kind of regular use, and then their bottom being kind of like more of a powerful move where you need special black data to activate. We'll talk about data, we'll cover that in a second. At the bottom here we've got our crew members. These folks are ready to be recruited, providing that we have enough diplomacy. So let's take Mr. Worf, for example. Worfy is sitting either at an outpost here, I hope you can see that, yeah, just about. He's either can be recruited from an outpost or a Romulan starbase, not sure what he's doing there. He costs 5 diplomacy points to recruit. He is a level 2 officer, and he has 5 defense. All of these things will become more clear once we actually get crew and once we actually need to know how to interact with them. But just know that this is how we buy them. This is how high they are, how much they cost to repair or heal, I should say. He's not data. And this is how strong they are in battle. And these are his abilities once we have him, and we can activate him once per round or send him on away missions and have him add to, in this case, our attack. But say in the medical officer's case, she can gain blue data tokens, she can repair, she can heal, she can ready, either, like we said, a level 1 or 2 crew member, so very handy. And she can be recruited from Earth or Class M planets and outposts as well. This gentleman, Klingon Lieutenant, can only be recruited from the outpost. So there you go, that's crew, they're ready to be recruited. Down here, this little space is typically where I keep like my like reference cards. So there's reference cards for pretty much everything you can encounter in space. So Romulan warbirds here, what to do when you reveal them, how you can interact with them, what you get if you defeat them, outposts, what you can do with them, research stations, dry docks, Romulan starbases, Dominion starbases, planets, Borgs. Again, we're not going to interact with the Borg, but there it is. And that's what you need to know. So this is where I'd keep those. And also, this reference card goes over, this is what I would keep this with your faction, in your little faction baggie as well, goes over what each of the skills means. So each faction does have specific skills to its faction, and these are what the different skills do that you can activate. All right. So that's the experience track and the markets, the various markets and cards we can put into our deck to improve our chances of defeating the various enemies and planets we run into. Lots of stuff over there, very complicated. Space map, pretty self-explanatory. It's a map, it covers space, and we expand it, as we said, kind of in this general direction as we explore. So as we move about space and say we get to the very edge here of, discovered worlds, if we were to make a move off into undiscovered territory before we go ahead and hop off into nothingness, we're going to pull this here next space token. We're going to line it up so all the shapes match. So this nice circle here, these nice stars here, those nice stars there, and it's going to fit together just like that. Then we continue our move, and in this case we end up on another outpost. That's how that goes, and like we've said, we've already laid out the first wormhole token, and then space 1 and space 2. I'm sticking with that, that's what they're called. Now, because we've laid out space 1 and space 2, you'll actually, the eagle-eyed among you will notice there are 2 Romulan warbirds, so this actually would be a pretty good chance for me to place said warbird tokens on the space map. That way we know that when we get too close to them, as soon as we hit adjacent, we can flip them, see how powerful they are, see what weapons they have, see what we need to defeat them, and then choose either to run in the opposite direction or indeed engage them in combat. I'll put those back just for now, but that's what we would do when we start the game. In our player space down here, again, we've got the command token we've already flipped to reveal our captain's token. Our captain's token gives us the captain's health, or the captain's strength, I suppose you could say. How many cards are we allowed to have in our hand at any one time? So our hand limit is currently 5. And then as we flip them, again, we place them one next to the other, and this tells us how many crew we can recruit. So the more experienced your captain is, of course, the more crew are going to want to come and work for him. So, for example, here, we could have indeed 3 crew recruited and able to be kind of manipulated to our desires. And of course you can see that the higher we go, the more strength we have, the more health we have, and the higher our hand limit gets. So more experience, more better, that's what we like to see. As we've also mentioned, we've got our skill tokens here, of which you can find out all the differing abilities on that reference card. For now, that's where they live. And then we've got the 16 card deck. All of these are the same for each faction, except for our captain token. And sweet Captain Picard, here he is. He gives us lots of diplomacy and is generally an all-around gentleman. So yeah, we shuffle these, we place them to the left. When we play these cards from our hand, so let's say we've got our first hand of 5 cards, we decide to play a couple. I just place them down into a discard pile, like right around here. So I'm not getting into the space map, but I'm not putting them too far away because we're going to need them again. We recycle them every round. I'm going to get into the cards and what they do probably in the next video. But for now, this is where they live. And the final section of the table, like we said, is this data core and kind of our ship storage. Nothing too much to cover here. Although inside, I did allude to having a bronze Picard statue, but he is here for a reason. Inside, I'm keeping my data crystals, which once we earn them, get placed onto our ship card here for spending later. They help us improve the cards in our hand, essentially. A very short description of what they do. We have the explanation for movement, as we mentioned. We've got data dice that again allow us to kind of upgrade the cards that we have in our hand. We roll these each round. We are able to use one of them per turn. So if I wanted to, for example, upgrade, I don't know, this blue card, instead of utilizing its top ability, I could spend this blue dice, grab this blue dice, use it to upgrade, instead use this bottom ability, and then at the end of that turn I would re-roll this and replace it back into the core. So they stay there pretty consistently. There's some cards that tell you can claim them for use later, that's fine too, but for the most part they get rolled and re-rolled and used and reused pretty regularly. Got a little away team token, which can be used to denote which planet we're on and which planet we're sending an away team to. Because it's only us, we're probably going to use that because we're probably going to know which planet we're on and which planet we're sending an away team to. And then again, our wound, just a few wound tokens, just a few away team tokens. We're not going to probably, again, use too many of these because of how short this scenario is. We're not going to have a chance to gain all that many crew members, or indeed, hopefully, get too many crew members wounded. And I think that just about covers it. Now, in the next video, I'll cover turns and turn order, the difference between turns and rounds, and then again, like how we're going to play, how we're going to utilize these cards in our hand to, you know, do our bidding, to move around the map, to interact with these various star bases or indeed enemy ships, outposts and recruitment, etc. And I think that will probably make for another part where maybe we'll play through a couple of turns as well, just to kind of give you an idea of, you know, how things work. But then from there we'll go on to explore, you know, the various mechanics, the combat, the exploration, the away team missions, which can get quite complicated, and the various planetary explorations we can be a part of. That, though, is going to be it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope this has been helpful. This game comes with 2 rulebooks, so you can tell that it's going to be a bit of a slog, especially, you know, to learn the game, when they give you like, hey, this is the easy way out, 20 pages, and this is the hard way out, 24 pages. That's not that different. So 44 pages of rules, and you've got yourself, you know, a learned experience. Hopefully this video provides you some insight into how the game should be set up, what it should look like, and going forwards, of course, hopefully, how to play and how to win. Do let me know if you want to see more of this type of video, you know, rather than just me playing through. If you want like more in-depth explanations or component reviews or that kind of thing, because I'm happy to do that, and I'm happy to pivot away from kind of just like sitting down and playing a game for fun, and actually kind of doing more like quote-unquote educational stuff. So let me know what you think. I will say, for all its complexities and for all its kind of like baffling rule page turning and referencing, this is a wonderful game. So it's fully worth diving in deep and giving it a go. We're going to make this as simple as possible. Like I said, just the one ship to manage. You don't have to think about anything else. Just you, me, Picard, and flying into the great beyond. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. Thank you so much for watching. Do consider subscribing if you're new. Ring the little bell so you get told about the next video. And I'll try to post these relatively close together, so that we're not waiting too long between episodes. And yeah, that's going to be it from me. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.